character who needed to burp, she couldn't just burp naturally. And Gary's like, I'll do it. And then Gary fires out this burp and it continues into vomit. And then, so he threw up on his lines. And I think they had to clear the studio for a few minutes. And then you never heard that story from me.
There was Colleen Klinkenbeard one time, she used to tell the story about she got really into one of the characters she was doing, and you know that they have a pop screen in front of the microphone which catches all the snot and spit? She was like, bah, bah, and then she accidentally licked the pop screen. Which is gross. Why are we vomiting and licking pop screens? What's going on?
I don't know.
Save us, Vic. Save us.
I will never be able to save you from that. I'm sorry. I don't really have any embarrassing... The only embarrassing thing about playing Broly is that I don't have the same kind of resilient scream all day and no problem. You know what I mean? Like, next day you're fine. No, I scream all day and I sound like this for the next week. And that's what happened with the first Broly movie. They brought me in to do the very first movie 8, Legendary Super Saiyan, and I let it rip. I mean, I had no idea what I was in for. So right out of the gate, I'm going for it, full on. And 2 hours in, I couldn't make a sound. And we were only halfway through the movie. And I was really kind of embarrassed. So they said, look, you know, I was living in Houston at the time, and I'd come up to Dallas to record it. And they said, well, go home and shut up, drink a lot of water, don't talk, and come back next week, and we'll finish the movie. So that was the first time that I just completely thrashed my voice and didn't even finish the character. And when the movie was over, I was like, oh, thank God, I made it through the movie. I don't have to do him anymore. But, you know, he continued to show up, and I love playing the character. That's what I meant by I love him, but he doesn't love me. Questions?
When you're taking an anime that's already been voiced in a different place, and you're lending your voice to dubbing it over, what is the difference between that versus taking an anime that this is the first time that you are voicing it and like trying to come up with a voice for it? You know what I mean?
So the two things you're describing are, one is called prelay, which is when you're doing the voices first, which is traditionally how it's done when a new series is being created. And then they'll send the voice footage over, a lot of times overseas, and they will match it to the animation, and then boom, you have a cartoon. The ADR, which is a lot of what the anime stuff is, it's been recorded overseas or by somebody else, and you have to match the voice flaps to the dialogue. And a lot of times it doesn't match up. We were recording from the Japanese, and you know, the voice flaps would be this, and the line was, okay! And then you had to make okay fit into all of that, and then you're like, I can only slow this down so much. Like, okay.
What I mean, seriously, is what I was trying to say was like, I really think maybe it's just, you know, kind of okay.
Yeah. Or a lot of times they will change line, but those are the two differentiating things between the different recording styles. It's much more fun to do prelay because you get to have a little bit of leeway as to how you want to do the lines, how you want to do the characters. ADR is very specific, and it's a skill that is kind of annoying to learn because there's like 3 beeps that come in. They play the scene, and then they have your line, and then they do the... And after the 3rd beep, you start your line, and you have to match it. And a lot of times it's annoying. You got to do it a lot.
Prelay, like you said, is a lot more flexible. Imagine, like, you can perform a line however you want, and then the animators have to match your performance. But one of the more difficult things I would even say about dubbing is that the animation is already completed. And it's a lot harder to give a believable, authentic, natural-sounding performance when you have to match a very strict, confined set of flaps. Oh, there's like a weird pause right in the middle of your sentence. Like, how do you make that work and feel still like it's natural? Part of your question, I think, was about coming up with a voice, right? There are 3 different contributing factors, I would say, to the voice that you ultimately end up with in an anime. number one would be, first influence would be the original Japanese. Not always. Sometimes the Japanese companies want the character to sound very much like theirs, and sometimes they don't really care. The second factor would be the director, his vision for the character and how he sees the character. And then the third would obviously be the actor. So the actor will bring in some ideas, the director will have his ideas. It may or may not have to have some element of the original Japanese actor. In fact, some animes, the bigger animes, like Bleach, Naruto, Full Metal, the companies in Japan wanted to have a say in the casting. Sometimes they'll just hand an anime off to an English company and be like, have at it, do whatever you want, cast whoever you want. But some of those larger shows, they really are extra concerned about how they're presented in another language. And so the Japanese companies like, send us the auditions. Like, we want to help, we want to contribute and have a say in the character, in the person you choose, in the voice you choose. Like with Full Metal, the woman that played Edward Elric, amazing, Romy Park, but when they dubbed it into English,